This is Umar for BoxNation. I'm at the headquarters of Frank Warren. I'm joined by Frank Warren himself. A busy weekend of boxing. Of course, we had the other weekend. A great win for your guy, Sam Noakes, at York Hall against an experienced customer, Mendy. Before we come on to your show, I just want to take it back to New York, where Ryan Garcia shocked the entire world. Were you shocked, Frank?
It's a funny thing. When I was initially asked about the fight, 'cause I wasn't sure if it was going to happen or not at that time, and I can't remember who I did it with, and they said, "Who'd you fancy?" And I said, "I favoured Garcia," and that was, I think, without the benefit of all the, all the problems that he was having and so forth. And then with all the problems, I sort of changed my mind. But once that weigh-in happened, and he got that advantage, that weight advantage, I felt that the odds moved over into his favour, and he boxed well. I mean, he done a good job. I mean, he didn't throw a lot. If you watched, I watched the fight a couple of times now, and he didn't throw a lot of jabs or anything, but he just done the more powerful and better work. And I think I generally think the weight helped him. Well, it did help him. No doubt about it. And it's like a $1.5 million gamble, wasn't it? That's really what it was. If you lose the fight, you're down the pecking order. By winning the fight, that's a real good investment. If it was 1.5, whatever they paid over.
Have you seen anything like that before at championship level, where a fighter's fighting for a world title completely ignores that, misses the weight to get a massive weight advantage the night after?
I think it has happened. Off the top of my head, I can't think, but I know it has happened in fights, and it's something that that's where you sort of the other. If it's happening to your fighter, you've got to have some serious thought about. And one of those thoughts are, do you say, no, I'm going to walk away and, don't care about the show. I'm more worried about what happens to my career. And but it has happened in the past. And I know there's been a couple of fights where, in the past, where people have, not gone ahead because of the weight.
It was quite incredible to see. Before the fight, a lot of people in New York, in the boxing world, were saying, Ryan should not be entering the ring. He looks crazy, and that's how he was. But straight after the fight, we were at the post-fight press, and he was a completely different person. He was back to normal.
Well, he's played a game, hasn't he? I mean, I genuinely, I see a couple of the clips they showed me in the office and whatever, and you felt this guy shouldn't be in there because if, God forbid, anything goes wrong, everybody would be culpable in allowing it to happen. But he obviously, well, I hope he played the game there and got everybody at it. I mean, that's what if he did, he's obviously a bit of a genius. It was good tactics and it stood him in well, especially with the weight.
Well, if it was a con job, it was one of the best ones we've seen, and he pulled it off very well. But we do need characters in the sport, and as long as he is all right, it can only be good for the sport.
Look, if he's mentally well, then he's okay, and that's it. I mean, but if somebody's not well, then obviously they need to address that before they worry about boxing, football, or going to work in the morning. That you need to be right in your head, and you need to be feeling good about yourself. There's no doubt about that.
Well, someone who does look right in his head and right in the ring is Sam Noakes, your guy. Career best win.
It was an excellent win. He's going into that fight 13 knockouts on the trot. British and Commonwealth champion. He's done that in 13 fights. 14th fight for the European title, and it was an absolute boxing exhibition against a good operator who's operated at the top for a long time, and a very difficult and awkward fighter to fight. But he won nearly every round. He won all the rounds, I believe, and he done it in good style, and he kept his composure and he kept his discipline. He didn't look to get careless. I think there was a couple of moments in the fight where he rocked him, whether he'd have stepped it up, who knows, he may have stopped many, but you know what, it's good to get the rounds sometimes under your belt, and he's got those rounds under his belt. He knows he can do 12 rounds at a good pace, at a good level, and that'll stand him in stead. And as I say, he's in 14 fights to be holding those 3 belts. He's done a brilliant job, and his whole team has. Alan Smith's done a fantastic job as a trainer, and Francis, my son, is his manager. All of them have done well. It's a really good team performance.
For a time, and they still are, him and Mark Chamberlain are on a collision course. However, you know, Mark's obviously very much liked in Saudi Arabia. He's back out there on May 18th on the Fury-Usyk undercard. So he's on his own journey, but it's fair to say they still are on a collision course, aren't they?
Yeah, I managed Mark. And he's done a brilliant job in his last couple of fights. And, I mean, what a big fight it can be. And I really would like that to be for a world title. I really would like that to happen. Or, you know, a final eliminator for a world title, but a world title. The way these two guys are going and, you know, the attention they're getting and the promotion, how we're promoting them, I genuinely feel that could be a big, big gate somewhere. We could do a real good business. And what I mean by good business, that means the fighters earn really good money. Obviously, we'll earn some as well, I hope. But it's a great fight to build up, and I want to build it up. And when it does take place, they're known guys. They're not fighters like you look at when we did George Groves, against James DeGale. James DeGale coming with a gold medal from the Olympics, so everybody knew he is. These guys, we've got to make the public more and more aware of them before we make it happen.
Okay. Would it be the first time, I'm right in saying as well, that a father would be managing a fighter and his son would be managing a fighter as well?
I be honest, I can't ever think of it happening before, so that's going to be quite interesting. That'd be some fun round the following day when we're having a lunch all together round the table.
Yeah, just to clarify, people watching, Francis Warren Frank's son obviously manages Sam Noakes, so that would be a very interesting dynamic to that fight.
And both the guys are tremendous fellas, you know, Sam and Mark. They're great fellas, you know, great for boxing. Two really good pros who do boxing proud and themselves and their families proud. Yeah,
they're not trash talkers, but they're both very competitive, and you can imagine when they do sort of have their build up, etc. From a sporting competitive point of view, it's going to be a good build up.
Oh, without a doubt, it'll be good and it'll be fun.
And it'll be a great fight as well. Let's hope it happens one day. Just going back to America after the Haney Garcia fight, we saw a press conference called in New York. His Excellency in Riyadh season staging a Riyadh season card on August 3rd in LA, and it's a stacked card full of world champion and top champions and top quality fights. Your thoughts on His Excellency moving into America?
Look, it's all part of the plan, and it's all about, you know, bringing the world's attention to the Riyadh season, and he's going to. It's in LA, and you say a stacked card, a fabulous card. It's a real fight card for fans, and that will get a lot of attention and draw a lot of eyeballs to what's going on, and on what Riyadh season's all about. So it's a fabulous event, absolutely fabulous event.
I've heard yourself, your son George, Eddie as well, talk about how much of a fight fan His Excellency is, and the knowledge and the passion he has for the sport. And I guess one of the criticism from perhaps British fight fans was, it's great we're getting these fights, but everything's going to Saudi Arabia. Now we know His Excellency wants to stage a fight, of course, at Wembley Stadium as a Riyadh season commercial, and now he's doing one in LA, so he's going across the world.
Well, we're going to do the show at Wembley, and we'll be announcing that very soon, I hope. But it's going to be a cracking card again, it'll be a really good competitive card, and it'll be the sort of the final one, I believe, before Riyadh season starts in October.
But the fact that he's investing in America and UK now as well.
It's a commitment to boxing, isn't it? That's what it is. It's a commitment to boxing. And as I say, they're special cards. It's not just a main event, great main events. It's also, as you say, a stacked undercard with fights that will probably be main events in their own rights in those particular territories, you know, like in the States and here when we're doing our one. So, This is brilliant for boxing, as I've said from day one. As I said last October, we're in for a game changer, and the game is definitely changing, and it's changing on a daily basis.
Yeah, people didn't believe you at the time as well.
No one ever believed me.
To be fair, though, it's been that much of a game changer. You probably underestimated the magnitude of it as well.
No, I did, but I knew in my heart this would be something special, and it's turned out, as you just said, it turned out to be much, much more than that. You know, this is for everybody involved in boxing, who work in boxing, for everybody who watches it, whether it's on TV or you're there live. This is something special. It's a special moment in the sport.
And I should have mentioned regarding that card on August 3rd as well. We saw in New York, His Excellency was putting up photos from people from PBC. So now they're in the fray. Golden Boy, I've got a fighter on the card. Saw obviously Queensberry on the poster as well. So again, the best promoters in the world all coming together.
All coming together to make this work, which is fabulous. That's what the fans have always been saying for years. Why can't you all work together? Well, it's happening.
Certainly is. 2 weeks ago now, till the most important, biggest fight of the 21st century. How does this compare as we get closer to, the fights with Deontay Wilder in America, even the Dillian White fight at Wembley Stadium? How are your nerves going into this?
I think this is for me, being involved, working with Tyson. First of all, as an historical moment in sport, as you say, the most significant fight this century. It's for the 4 belts, first time ever, and first time a unification fight of, was it 26 years? 27?
Lennox Lewis, yeah.
Lennox Lewis.
Over 25 years, yeah.
Yeah. So that in itself is a very significant moment. As far as the fight's concerned, Tyson fought, this is to determine who's the best heavyweight in the world. And we all have everybody's got an opinion who's the best heavyweight out there for the various reasons. They've looked at recent form of fighters, past form of them. You can look at all of this stuff. But you know what? Come the night, it's going to be one of them where both of them are going to have to pull out everything they've got. Both of them have to be at their very, very best. And I think Tyson at his best is too good for any of the guys out there. So this is probably the most significant fight. And Tyson wouldn't say this, but I do. It's the most significant fight that he's ever been involved in.
Okay. I think, to be fair, the Morecambe press conference, I know he doesn't, at the moment, like talking about the legacy, the belts, etc., but even he touched upon this.
Well, it is. Look, I said to him, we talked about it quite a few times. I said, in years to come, your kids, all your family, everybody will know, wherever you go, you win this, you are the unified champion. You're the first person to do it this century. And I can't see it happening again anytime soon. You'll be the first one to do it. And that is historic in itself. And it's never been done by an English fighter. Never.
Yeah. Well, wanted to get your reaction to some comments from Barry McGuigan. He had his column in the Mirror. The headline of it was that Tyson Fury in for rude awakening against Alexander Usyk, and moreover, he said he's a good fighter, remarkable in many ways given his dimensions, but his record does not suggest anything more than that. He does not have a great chin and is certainly not the second coming. Thoughts on those comments?
Well, I'm a bit disappointed he should say that. Let's talk about his chin. What's a good chin? Chin's somebody who gets up off the floor. They get caught, they go down, they get up. Who didn't have a good chin? Larry Holmes. What a great chin he had. Get hit on the chin, get up off the floor. See all those fighters that get hit on the chin or get knocked over or get stopped. They haven't got good chins. I think Barry got stopped, didn't he, against Cruz in America. You look at Tyson. What's his record? Well, he went to Germany and he beat the best heavyweight of his generation in Klitschko. Didn't just beat him, boxed him and took him to school. He then went out to the States and fought the guy who at the time they couldn't get the fight made between him and the other champion, who was AJ. He went out to the States, the other guy's backyard, come back. He had two quick fights, got off 11, well, he hadn't got off all the 11 stone, come in quite heavy, quite big, fought a guy who was, on paper, was the hardest punching, not on paper, in fact, hardest punching heavyweight out there for the last 40, 50 years. Undefeated for 6 years, and got a draw. He won the fight, got a draw, and went on to have 2 great fights with him. I don't know what you've got to do. You can only beat who's the best of your generation. And what Tyson's done, and he will prove it on the 18th, when he beats Usyk, is that he's beat everybody of his generation. And that is something that Barry didn't do. Barry never fought Azuma Nelson because I tried to make the fight with him. I tried to make that fight, and we put Zuma Nelson on over in the UK. Barry didn't fight or make the return with Cruz, which again I tried to make. I tried to make the fight between him and Barry Michael back then, who's the IBF featherweight champion, and he didn't fight him. Didn't fight any of those guys. So what Tyson's done, which makes him a standout of his generation, he's gone and fought everybody. He's not ducked anyone. Who is there who he hasn't fought? So we've offered money to fight him. Who is there? You know, of his own admission, AJ and Frank Smith said back then that when we were trying to make that fight with AJ wouldn't have been able to fight because he didn't have a trainer. But we tried to make it. We didn't try and duck out of it. And the Usyk fight, for what everybody is saying, you think Tyson's been ducking him. He's only been a champion for a few years, and the fight's made. So we will see. We'll see whether, if beating Usyk on what Barry's saying, it seems to me saying Usyk is the standout heavyweight of his generation. I would interpret the way he's saying that. So if he beats him, then I'm afraid he's going to have to acknowledge that Tyson is the best out there.
He said he's not elite. That's what he said.
He's not elite. What is Tyson's not elite? Well, who are the elite heavyweights today? Can somebody tell me who they are?
I'd say Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk.
Yeah.
You could argue Anthony Joshua is elite.
He's come back into it, yeah. So, but you can certainly say Usyk is because he's beaten Anthony Joshua twice.
Would you say Deontay Wilder's elite or not, Frank?
Not, he was elite at the time because he was undefeated for 6 years and he was knocking everybody over. He certainly wasn't, and he gave Tyson a tough fight. The third fight was a tough fight, and Tyson prevailed. That's what good champions do. They grit their teeth and they fight their way through it, in fight all adversity. And what you got to look at with Tyson as well is where he came from. You know, he won the world title and then had all those problems, which are well documented and so forth. And he came back. After all those, came back and regained the title. Didn't lose the titles. He didn't lose them in the ring, and came back and regained them. So, you know, if Usyk is an elite heavyweight, which he's suggesting, Tyson beats him, then he's there. But for me, I'm telling you, Tyson Fury in any generation, would be there with all of them. In any generation.
Just seen as well, there's another article in the Belfast Telegraph, a former fighter of yours, of course, Carl Frampton. Barry said that Carl Frampton knows he could not have achieved anything without me or my family.
I think Carl Frampton is a good enough fighter to have been with me, been with Matchroom, been with Top Rank or anybody, and you'd have got the same results. He'd have been a world champion. He'd have been a world champion. And one thing's for sure, had he been with maybe a different family, he'd have had a lot less heartache and wouldn't have had to spend a lot of time in court.
Okay, moving on from that. A couple of weeks later after Fury-Usyk, for me, the best fight card I've seen from top to bottom, because you go through the 5 fights with yourself and Eddie, and you'd have to be... You might say different, Eddie might say different, but from a fan's point of view, can't pick, categorically in any of those. And then you've got the best fight, I think, in boxing between Beterbiev and Bivol. Have you ever seen anything like this? It's
a fabulous card. I mean, I think the best fight was a toss-up. The best fight, the heavyweights, the blue ribbon division, and we've got that on the 18th. Then you've got, as you're quite rightly saying, this light heavyweight fight. They're both the fights have undefeated. They're both undefeated. Well, the 4 fighters are all undefeated.
Correct, yeah.
And the second one, the light heavyweights, I think they're both 20-0. And Beterbiev, he's got the perfect record, 20 fights, 20 stoppages. So that's an unbelievable fight. And then you look at the 5v5, you look at the rivalry, you look at the situation with the fights that are made, how much is depending on the fights that are made. The fact we're going to win 5-0 is brilliant.
Is that the best promo as well, the one that you and Eddie filmed?
Yeah. I mean, it's all good fun. I mean, it is good fun, and we all enter into the spirit of it. And, Yeah, it's good, and it gets a lot of eyeballs. It certainly gets. I mean, was it nearly 2 million people have watched it? So I understand. So that means 2 million people know that event is on, and that's what it's about. That's why it's called a promo. It's brilliant, and as I say, it was good fun doing it, and we got a lot of, we're probably about 6 weeks away from it now. Is it 5-6 weeks away from that? What a night that's going to be. That's going to be fabulous.
I think less, actually. Well, Fury-Usyk's what?
It's the 1st of June.
Yeah.
So it's 5 weeks.
5 weeks. 5 weeks away. Are you surprised that Eddie picked Deontay Wilder as his captain?
No, he had to go out there. I mean, we're quite strong, as you know, in the heavyweight division. He had to go out and find somebody. And I think in some ways it's a really good choice because Deontay, this is it for him, isn't it? He definitely can't afford to lose this. He's got to come out and he's got to show what he's all about if he wants to still be in the game. And for Big Bang, he's there. He's that fight of him and Joe Parker was a really good fight, very close fight, and he faded a bit at the end. He can't afford to do that this time round. So for both of those guys, the fact on paper it's a good fight. I think it will be a good fight because so much at stake for both of them with their future careers. Good fight, very good fight, and I'll get the reason why Eddie picked him, and I'll get the reason why he made him captain as well because I think that Deontay, it's got to be, shit or bust for him. He's going to have to go out and let those bombs go.
And in terms of Dubois-Hrgovic, are you a bit in the unknown about what to expect from Filip Hrgovic?
No, look, I've heard so much about him as he's a good fighter. Let's get it right. I've never said he's a bad fighter, but I heard so much about him, especially in sparring and so forth, from various trainers who I talked to, and he's really respected. The fights I've seen him in, he's not set the world alight to me, and I'm not being disrespectful to him. And I do think that the Zhang fight was a very close fight. I thought Zhang edged that fight. And it's a tough fight for Daniel. Daniel, this is going to be more about Daniel than it's going to be about Philip. It's going to be more about him. He knows what he's got to do. He really does know what he's got to do. I know he's got the skills to do it. I know he can punch, he can box, he's got a great jab, and I know the other guy can do the same thing. But I think Daniel's the bigger puncher, great finisher. But it's about now this. And if he grits his teeth like he did in his last fight, and he shows the heart that I know he's got, this is a winnable fight for him. If he wins it, it sets up, I believe, hopefully we can get over the line, him against AJ. That's what I'd like to see in a perfect world. But it's not an easy job for either of them. It's going to be interesting. They've not sparred once. They sparred a few times together. And I was talking to Martin because he was trained by Martin Bowers back then, and Martin said they were tough spars for both of them.
Not according to Filip Hrgovic.
Well, he talked about one spar. He talked about one, but and there was this nonsense about he went to hospital, and that was a nonsense. And you speak to Martin, but irrespective of that, he was a kid. He's 6 years older than him. He's not like he was. Somebody told me first they told me he was 18, not 17, or he was just as he turned pro, so he must have been 18 or just that. But whatever it was, that's sparring. This is the real deal. This is the real deal. And in sparring, no one's going to jump in the ring and stop it. The only time it gets stopped is when the referee knows that one of them can't carry on, or he's been poleaxed. So this is going to be a good fight. It's going to be an exciting fight. And there's no love lost. I thought when they'd done the round table, I don't know if it's out yet with Steve Bunce. You've not seen it yet?
I don't think they've published it, but Eddie actually told me what Daniel said.
Love it. Yeah. For me, it shocked me. I mean, it was like all going. They're asking Steve's asking questions of the fighters. What do you think of him? What were you? And they're sort of saying what they're saying. And Filip Hrgovic, they had a little bit of a thing going between them. And then he said to him, they said to Philip, look at Daniel, look at them biceps and the muscles and shoulders on him, and he said to him, yeah, and he said, he hasn't got big balls though, or something like that. And then it got a little bit whatever, then he asked how he was going to win, and Hrgovic said he was going to win, and then he said to Daniel, how are you going to win? And he said, I'm going to see you next Tuesday out. And I was like, what is that? And the way he said it, I mean, it was just, watch it. It's really worth a watch when it comes out. You're going to love it.
I was watching the Day of Reckoning documentary last night on DAZN, and there was a moment, Daniel was actually not doing great early on against Gerald Miller, and you called Daniel's dad to ringside or into the corner, essentially. Can you just talk to me about what happened in that moment and why you did that?
I could see, he was boxing well, and I think it was about the fourth round or something, about the fourth or fifth round. I just see him looking a little bit distracted, and he went back to the corner. I could see him looking, and I could hear his dad. And I don't know if I don't know what it was anyway. So I said, "Go and grab it." I knew he would listen to his dad. I mean, he was listening to Don. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being disrespectful. So I said, "Go and get his dad and bring him and drag him in." And I said, "I can't remember who was sitting next to me." I set his dad next to me, and we're right on the corner. And I just said to his dad, "Let him hear you." And you could see it spurred him on. And that was it.
Just to mention as well, at the start of that documentary, they're filming DAZN film in this office here, and your son George has an incredible punch on him. I was quite surprised.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that bit of it.
He got this, I believe, the second highest score on that punch machine in your office.
Yeah, I taught him everything he knows.
Just lastly on that 5v5 card, your captain Hamza Shiraz. Was that an easy decision to make him as captain?
No, I just felt it impresses me. First of all, he's been with us from day one, so it impresses me a lot as a person. And what I like about him is, we're in professional boxing, and you've got to be professional. But he's thoroughly professional. The way he prepares, I love the way he conducts himself. I think he's got a lot of class about him. I think he's got a lot of stature about him, and I think that he fills the role of a captain of our team. And I think he's a bit of an inspiration, and most importantly, he can fight, and that helps a bit. So he's in a tough fight, but he's in a fight that I think is a winnable fight for him. Is a winnable fight, and that will put him in line for a big title shot. All
right, and I said that Bill was topped by two elite light heavyweights, Beterbiev v Bivol, so it'll be an incredible card. Just talking about light heavyweights, any contact with Anthony Yarde recently?
Well, we've had a couple of discussions, but they're sort of off the record or without prejudice, so I can't really go into detail. I hope something can be resolved. If it can, it can. We've got our position, his team have got their position, and that's where we are. And there's a bit of common sense has got to prevail, and that's the bottom line. Common sense has to prevail.
So since we first spoke about this situation over Zoom, I'm guessing from what you said, nothing's progressed in a positive way.
No, okay. We're in the same position, which is a great shame. But look, it will always, they say, it'll all come out in the wash, and it's a shame we're in this position. I mean, I can look Anthony in the eye all day long and know that we've always had his best interest at heart. We've always done the best for him, and would continue to do so. It's just a shame we're here. It's not the first time that a promoter and a boxer have had this, or a promoter and his management and a boxer have been in something like this. And it probably won't be the last. It's just a shame that it's worked out like this with Anthony. But I'll tell you what, history repeats itself. The times, I've had a few of these over the years, not a lot, but a few of them over the years, and you go back and read people's autobiographies or look at interviews they've done afterwards, they've all said, all of them, that they wish it never happened. And that's where we are, and I think that'll be, I really do feel he is not being advised in a good way at the moment. But he's over 21, he's over 31, and it's up to him to listen to what it is. If he wants to pick up the phone, I'm here to speak anytime, privately, without anybody. I'll do that in a heartbeat. But I can't change what's in his mind, and I can't change where his head's at.
Is that what you put it down to, his management, his advice?
I put it down to Well, it's not my advice. So if he, what do I know? What do I know? More experienced people involved than me in there. So what do I know? I can't really go into that at the moment. No, I don't think he's going to sit around, is he? We agreed terms with Buatsi. We agreed terms with him. With Boxer and him, I should say.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to next weekend, return for Denzel Bentley, who obviously had a really poor outing against Nathan Haney in his last fight. So it's a must-win for him against Bentley-Dignum. Thoughts on this card?
What you said is exactly how it is. Either if he don't win this, then I don't see where he goes. His career's on the line. And Dignum's not showing up to make the number. Numbers up. It's a tough fight, good fight. It's a good card.
Okay. All right, Frank, is there anything you want to add? You probably actually want to talk about yesterday, don't you?
What, White Hart Lane? Yeah. I thought we actually really defended well. I think we defended very well, and there was just a couple of screw-ups with Riyadh with that, with the goal that he gave away, and I thought, and the penalty, which was a bit of a kick up the bollocks, but it was a penalty, and that was it. But it was, I think Arsenal, that team that played yesterday's, if that had been last season's team, then I could have seen us even losing that game in the second half. But they showed what they were about, showed a bit of grit, and it was good. Shame is we're dependent on Man City falling over, and I don't think they're going to do that. I hope they will, but I don't think they will do it because I think the teams they're playing are, they're not winning teams, are they?
Aren't you playing on the 18th of May? The
19th.
Okay.
19th, Everton. 4 o'clock kickoff.
So potentially it could go down to the wire. So what are you going to do?
Do.
Celebrate with Tyson, or are you going to come back here?
Well, when Tyson wins that, we'll be celebrating, won't we? And I'll be watching it. Probably, I don't know what we're doing, but I in an ideal world, I like to do both. But I mean, listen, it's 20 years since we've won a title. It's 25 years since we've had, 26 years, whatever it is, since we've had a fight of this magnitude in the heavyweight division. So it's a no-brainer.
Small weekend for you then.
Small sporting weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's going to be, it's happening, isn't it? We're only what now? We're
2 weeks.
A couple of weeks away. Yeah. I mean, it's just flying by, and it's going to be on us. And Tyson. Anybody's watching or seen Tyson. I don't know, some of these idiots who saying he doesn't look in condition. I don't know what planet they're on. I mean, you've seen him close up. I've seen him. He's jumping out of his skin. I was worried that he was going to be peaking too soon. I'm telling you, he is going to be at his best, and him at his best, no one lives with him.
Okay. Should also mention you've got some big announcements coming over the next few weeks as well about shows in the summer and stuff.
We've got some great shows, some fabulous shows. We've got a great Magnificent Seven coming up, which we're going to announce, which is got some cracking fights on there. Cracking fights, and some other good shows that we've got lined up. So we've got a string of announcements coming out, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good summer.
Okay. Frank Warren, thank you very much for your time on Box Nation, and I shall see you when I'm next looking at you.
Not if I see you first.